They say marriage is about trust. What a load of crap. I'm sitting in my garage at 2 in the morning, staring at a tube of personal lubricant that's about to become a weapon of mass humiliation. My name's Mac McKinley, I'm 45 years old, and I build houses for a living. I'm also about to destroy my cheating wife's life with the precision of a demolition expert. Let me back up. 3 hours ago, I was just another sucker, married to Marta McKinley, corporate fitness manager and apparently part-time adulteress. She'd been working late more often, going on mysterious fitness retreats, and treating me like I was invisible. Tonight, while she showered off whatever guilt she could manage, I decided to check her gym bag. Condoms, black lace lingerie I'd never seen before, and this tube of lubricant, still warm from recent use. The smell hit me like a punch to the gut. Cheap cologne mixed with sweat and betrayal. I could practically smell the Axe body spray. Mac, what are you doing out there? Marta's voice drifted from the house. Sweet as honey, fake as her gym-tanned skin. Just working on a project, honey, I called back, unscrewing the cap on the tube. Be in soon. My hands were steady as I squeezed out the contents into a small bowl. 30 years of construction work teaches you precision. I reached for my secret weapons, brilliant green fabric dye, and industrial-strength itching powder, left over from a prank war with my crew last summer. The mixture turned an alarming shade of emerald. Perfect. I carefully refilled the tube, making sure the consistency looked normal. Let's see how much they enjoy their next romantic encounter when they turn into scratching, green-skinned monsters. Mac, I'm going to bed, Marta called. Right behind you, sweetheart. I wasn't, of course. I had more work to do. My neighbor Barb knocked on my door the next morning while I was drinking coffee and pretending to read the newspaper. Barb's 73, retired, and knows everyone's business in a 6-block radius. Mac, honey, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, she said, settling into my kitchen chair, like she owned the place. But I saw Marta leaving with that muscle-bound fellow again last night. Around 11. Muscle-bound fellow? Drives a silver BMW. Looks like he bathes in protein powder. Barb's eyes gleamed with gossip-hungry delight. They've been meeting up for weeks now. I thought you should know. I nodded slowly. Thanks, Barb. I appreciate you looking out for me. After she left, I called my buddy Darren. We've been friends since high school, and he's the kind of guy who asks, how deep? When you need help digging a hole. Darren, I need a favor. Can you get me a GPS tracker? Something small. Mac, what kind of trouble are you getting into? The satisfying kind. An hour later, Darren showed up with a magnetic tracker the size of a quarter. Military grade, he said with a grin. Completely undetectable. What's this about? I told him everything. Darren's face went from sympathetic to predatory. So, what's the plan? Patience, I said. Let them dig their own grave first. That afternoon, while Marta was at work, I attached the tracker to the underside of her car. Then, I waited. The notification came at 6:47 p.m. Marta's car was at the Sleepy Inn Motel on Route 9. She'd told me she was working late on quarterly reports. I drove to the motel and parked across the street. Sure enough, there was her Honda, next to a silver BMW. Room 237. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. My phone buzzed with a text from Marta. Working late again? Don't wait up. Love you. Love you. Right. I went home and waited. Around midnight, my phone lit up with a video message from Barb. Apparently, she'd been watching from her window with binoculars. The video showed Marta and a tall, muscular guy sneaking toward my house. Both of them were scratching frantically, and in the streetlight, their skin had a distinctly green tint. The guy, presumably Julian, was trying to help Marta walk, but he kept stopping to scratch his arms. Oh my God, Marta was saying in the video. What is happening to us? I don't know, Julian replied, his voice higher than it probably usually was. Maybe it's an allergic reaction to the sheets? They looked like extras from a zombie movie. Green, itchy, miserable extras. I texted Barb back. Shrek called. He wants his couple back. Her response was a string of crying, laughing emojis. Marta crept into the house 20 minutes later. I pretended to be asleep as she showered for the second time that day, muttering curses under her breath. She kept scratching, even in the water. This was just the beginning. The next morning, Marta called in sick to work. She was covered in green-tinged blotches and couldn't stop scratching. She blamed it on a reaction to new laundry detergent. Maybe we should see a doctor, I suggested helpfully. It's fine, she snapped. It'll go away. Oh, it would go away, but the story wouldn't. I met Darren at Murphy's bar that evening. Murphy's is the kind of place where construction workers, mechanics, and other blue-collar folks gather to complain about their lives over cheap beer. It's also gossip central for our neighborhood. You should have seen them, I told Darren, loud enough for the guys at the next table to hear. Green as dollar bills and scratching like they had fleas. Looked like they rolled around in radioactive poison ivy. No kidding, said Tommy from the next table. Tommy works at the electric company and knows everyone in town. What do you think caused it? Who knows, I shrugged. Maybe karma's green these days. The story spread like wildfire. By the next day, half the neighborhood had heard about the mysterious green couple spotted around town. Barb, bless her gossipy heart, had shared the video with her book club, her bridge group, and her yoga class. Meanwhile, I did some investigating of my own. Marta had been sloppy. She'd hidden a burner phone in her gym bag, but she hadn't changed the password from our anniversary date. Her text history with Julian was a gold mine of evidence. Julian, can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. Room 237 again? Marta, yes. Mac's working late. We'll have hours? Julian, you know what, good. I have something special planned. Marta, you always do. That's why I love you. Love. She used the word love. I screenshotted everything, then dug deeper into Julian's social media. Julian Carter, 38, celebrity personal trainer at Elite Fitness. His Instagram was full of shirtless selfies and motivational quotes about living your best life and taking what you deserve. Apparently, what he deserved was other men's wives. I learned more about his routine, his habits, his weaknesses. Julian was obsessed with his image, literally. He posted on social media constantly, tagged his location everywhere, and treated his BMW like a shrine. That gave me ideas. 2 days later, while Julian was inside the gym training clients, Darren and I paid his car a visit. We didn't damage anything. That would be criminal. Instead, we let the air out of all 4 tires, soaped the windows with "Cheaters Itch" in big green letters, and left a green-stained towel on the dashboard. We also scattered itching powder around the door handles. From across the street, we watched Julian discover our handiwork. He came out of the gym laughing with some blonde client, then stopped dead when he saw his car. His face went through several interesting color changes. "What the hell?" he shouted, loud enough for everyone in the parking lot to hear. The blonde client took one look at the soaped windows and backed away. Julian? Is there something you want to tell me?" "This is vandalism," Julian yelled at no one in particular. "Whoever did this is going to pay." He tried to wipe off the soap with his bare hands, then started scratching immediately. The itching powder was doing its job. "Dude," called out another gym member, "you're turning green again. Maybe you should see a doctor." Julian's face went red, then pale. He looked around the parking lot like a trapped animal. That's when I knew I had him. But Marta was the real target, and she was about to make things much easier for me. Marta stormed into the house that evening like an avenging angel. Her skin had mostly returned to normal, but she was still scratching occasionally. "We need to talk," she announced, standing in the doorway with her hands on her hips. I looked up from my newspaper. "Sure, honey, what's on your mind?" "Don't play dumb with me, Mac. I know you know." "Know what?" Her face twisted with frustration. "About Julian." I set down the paper and looked at her calmly. "Julian who?" "My trainer, my friend." "Oh, you mean your boyfriend. The one you've been screwing at the Sleepy Inn motel." The words hung in the air like smoke. Marta's mouth opened and closed several times before she found her voice. "How did you know?" "Marta, you've been about as subtle as a brick through a window. The late nights, the new lingerie, the way you flinch when I touch you. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out?" She straightened up, trying to regain control. "Fine. Yes, I'm seeing Julian. I'm in love with him, Mac. Real love, not whatever this is. She gestured around our kitchen dismissively. This, I said quietly, is 20 years of marriage. This is the house I built for you with my own hands. This is the life we created together. A life I'm tired of, she shot back. When's the last time you made me feel special, Mac? When's the last time you made me feel anything? I stood up slowly. And Julian makes you feel special? Yes. He sees me for who I really am. A cheating wife? Her hand flew toward my face. I caught her wrist easily. Don't, I said quietly. You've done enough damage. She jerked her hand away. I want a divorce. No. The word came out flat and final. Marta blinked. What do you mean, no? I mean, no, you don't get to destroy our marriage and then walk away clean. You want out? Fine. But you're going to pay for what you've done. You can't stop me from leaving, Mac. I smiled, and something in my expression made her take a step back. Actually, I can. See, while you've been playing house with Muscle Boy, I've been busy. I changed the locks this morning. I also moved our joint savings into an account with only my name on it. Legally, I'm allowed to do that. Her face went white. You can't do that. I just did. I also canceled your credit cards and took your name off the car insurance. That's financial abuse. No, that's protecting my assets from a cheating spouse. There's a difference. Marta stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Who are you? I'm the man whose wife has been lying to him for months. I'm the man who built you a life, and you threw it away for some gym rat with more muscles than brains. Julian loves me. Julian loves the idea of you. Wait until the novelty wears off. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling a lawyer. Go ahead. But you might want to think about what a divorce trial would look like. All those text messages, all those motel receipts, all those photos Julian posts on social media. You think the judge is going to be sympathetic to the cheating wife? Her hand trembled as she lowered the phone. I hate you, she whispered. Good, I replied. Now we're even. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? To Julian's. Give him my regards. Tell him I said thanks for the entertainment. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. I poured myself a beer and called Darren. Phase 2 is complete, I told him. What's Phase 3? Public humiliation. It's time the whole town knew what kind of people they really are. Julian's loft was in the trendy part of downtown, the kind of place where young professionals paid too much rent to live in converted warehouses. I'd done construction work in the building 2 years ago, so I knew the layout. More importantly, I knew the security cameras had blind spots. Darren and I waited until 2 a.m. before making our move. We didn't break in. That would be illegal. Instead, we focused on the areas we could access legally: the parking garage, the lobby, and Julian's front door. We started in the parking garage. Julian's BMW was easy to spot. It was the only car with cheater written in green soap on the windshield. Someone had already cleaned off our previous artwork, but apparently Julian hadn't learned his lesson. This time, we got creative. We zip-tied green pool noodles to his bumpers, covered his windshield wipers with green ribbon, and filled his wheel wells with biodegradable green glitter. Nothing permanent, nothing criminal, just embarrassing. Then, we moved to the lobby. The building had a community bulletin board where residents posted notices about lost pets and apartment sublets. We added our own contribution, a laminated poster with Julian's Instagram photo and the caption, "Have you seen this cheater? Last spotted turning green and scratching. If found, please return to his wife's husband." But the masterpiece was Julian's front door. We covered it with green streamers and hung a sign that read, "Congratulations on your new relationship. May it be as lasting as your tan and as genuine as your personality." We also left a gift basket filled with green-tinted items: soap, shampoo, lotion, and a bottle of calamine lotion with a note that read, "For when karma makes you itch." The next morning, I got a call from Serena, Marta's best friend and fellow gym employee. Serena was one of those people who thrived on drama, and she was practically vibrating with excitement. "Mac, you need to know what happened at Julian's building," she said breathlessly. "What happened?" "Someone decorated his car and his apartment door with green stuff. There's photos all over social media. The building manager is furious, and Julian's threatening to call the police. That's terrible, I said, trying to sound concerned. Did he call them? He can't. Everything was technically on public property or common areas. Nothing was damaged, just decorated. I could hear her trying not to laugh. There's more, she continued. Marta showed up this morning looking like she hadn't slept. She's been staying at Julian's, but apparently the whole building is talking about them now. The other residents are not happy about the attention. What kind of attention? Well, someone posted a video of Julian trying to remove green glitter from his car wheels. He was scratching the whole time, and he looked... She paused, searching for words. He looked pathetic, Mac. Really pathetic. That afternoon, I decided to take a drive through downtown. I wanted to see Julian's building for myself, maybe get a sense of how effective our campaign had been. I didn't expect to run into Julian in person. He was in the parking garage, still trying to clean glitter out of his wheel wells. He looked up as I walked past, and his face went through several interesting expressions before settling on rage. You, he said, standing up slowly. Me, I agreed. You're the one doing this. Doing what? He gestured at his car, which still sparkled with traces of green glitter despite his efforts. This. All of this. I looked at the car thoughtfully. Nice BMW. Shame about the glitter. You think you're funny? I think I'm standing in a public parking garage, looking at a car that someone decorated. I think the person who decorated it has a sense of humor. Julian stepped closer, trying to use his height and muscle mass to intimidate me. Stay away from me and Marta. Or what? Or you'll regret it. I laughed, and the sound echoed off the concrete walls. Julian, let me explain something to you. I build houses for a living. I work with my hands, I solve problems, and I don't back down from bullies. You want to threaten me? Go ahead. But remember, I'm not the one who's been skulking around motels and lying to everyone I know. His face flushed red. Marta loves me. Marta loves the idea of you. There's a difference. You don't know what you're talking about. I know she's been married to me for 20 years. I know she threw that away for a guy who posts shirtless selfies and quotes fortune cookies on Instagram. I know that when this is over, you'll move on to the next bored housewife, and she'll be left with nothing. Julian's hands clenched into fists. You're pathetic. Maybe, but I'm not the one covered in green glitter in a parking garage, getting relationship advice from the husband I'm trying to replace. For a moment, I thought he might actually take a swing at me. Instead, he turned back to his car. This isn't over, he muttered. No, I agreed. It's not. The Riverside Summer Festival was the biggest event of the year in our town. Food trucks, live music, craft booths, and half the population showing up to see and be seen. It was also the perfect venue for the final act of my revenge. I'd spent 2 weeks preparing. The festival had a charity fund run, and both Marta and Julian had signed up, probably trying to show off their fitness and rebuild their public image after the green incident had become local legend. What they didn't know was that I'd made friends with Danny, who ran the local drone photography business. Danny owed me a favor from when I'd helped fix his roof for free, and he was happy to help with my surprise. The morning of the festival, I positioned myself near the finish line with Darren and a small crowd of our friends from Murphy's Bar. We had lawn chairs, coolers full of beer, and cameras ready. You sure about this? Darren asked for the 10th time. Positive. They want attention? They're about to get more than they can handle. The runners started gathering at the starting line. I spotted Marta easily. She was wearing a bright pink running outfit that probably cost more than most people's car payments. Julian was beside her in matching athletic wear, both of them posing for selfies and acting like they were the star couple of the event. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer called out, welcome to the 5th annual Riverside Charity Fun Run. Our runners today are supporting the local food bank, so let's give them a big cheer. The crowd applauded. I waved at Marta, and she glared back at me with pure hatred. The race began, and I watched Marta and Julian disappear into the pack of runners. They'd be back in about 30 minutes. The course was only 3 miles, and both of them were in good shape. That gave me just enough time for the final setup. Danny launched his drone as the first runners came into sight. The banner was already attached and ready to deploy. I'd had it made at a print shop 2 towns over, paying cash and giving a fake name. Here they come, Darren said, pointing down the street. Marta and Julian were in the front group, running side by side like they were in some kind of romantic movie. The crowd cheered as they approached the finish line. That's when Danny deployed the banner. A bright green banner, 20 feet long, unfurled from the drone directly over the finish line. In bold black letters, it read, "Congratulations to the Green Dream Team. Still itching for more?" The crowd's cheering turned to laughter and confused murmurs. Marta looked up and stumbled, nearly falling. Julian's face went white, then red, then something approaching purple. But I wasn't done. As they crossed the finish line, Barb and 3 of her friends started a slow clap, chanting, "Green Dream Team! Green Dream Team!" Other people in the crowd picked it up, thinking it was some kind of inside joke or team cheer. Marta stood frozen at the finish line, looking around at the laughing crowd like a deer in headlights. Julian grabbed her arm and tried to pull her away, but a local reporter had spotted the banner and was already approaching with a camera. "Excuse me," the reporter called out. "Are you the Green Dream Team? What's the story behind the banner?" "No comment," Julian said quickly, but it was too late. The damage was done. I pulled out my phone and started recording as Marta finally spotted me in the crowd. Her face twisted with rage and humiliation. "You!" she screamed, pointing at me. "You did this!" The crowd turned to look at me. I smiled and waved. "I don't know what you're talking about, honey. I'm just here to support the local food bank." "You're insane," she shouted. "You're absolutely insane." "Ma'am," the reporter said, stepping closer with her microphone. "Could you explain what's happening here? What's the significance of the green theme?" Marta looked around wildly. Julian was backing away, apparently deciding that discretion was the better part of valor. The crowd was staring. The drone was still hovering overhead with its banner. She started, then stopped. "I can't. This is..." And then she ran. She pushed through the crowd and ran toward the parking area, leaving Julian standing alone at the finish line. The reporter turned to him instead. "Sir, can you explain what just happened?" Julian looked at the camera, then at the banner, then at me. For a moment, our eyes met across the crowd. "No comment," he said finally, and followed Marta toward the parking lot. But he didn't make it that far. As Julian pushed through the crowd, he didn't notice the kids' bounce house setup until it was too late. He tripped over one of the support ropes and went sprawling, landing face first in the dunk tank that had been set up for the festival games. The water in the tank had been dyed green for some reason, probably part of the environmental awareness booth. Julian came up sputtering, completely soaked in green water, looking like some kind of swamp monster. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. I kept recording as Julian climbed out of the tank, dripping green water and looking absolutely miserable. He glared at me one more time, then stalked off toward the parking lot. "Well," Darren said, cracking open another beer, "I'd say that was a success." "We're not done yet," I replied. But as it turned out, we were. Because Monday morning, I got a call that changed everything. "Mac, this is Jennifer from HR at Elite Fitness." I didn't recognize the voice, but the tone was official and slightly nervous. "I'm sorry, who is this?" "Jennifer Walsh, Human Resources Director at Elite Fitness. I believe your wife Marta works here?" "She does. We need to speak with you about a complaint we received. Could you come in today?" This was interesting. What kind of complaint? "I'd rather discuss it in person." "Would 2 o'clock work?" I agreed and spent the morning wondering what this was about. Had Marta finally told her boss about our marital problems? Was she trying to get me in trouble somehow? The Elite Fitness building was all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed, "We're better than you," from the parking lot. I found Jennifer Walsh in a sterile conference room, surrounded by folders and looking distinctly uncomfortable. "Mr. McKinley, thank you for coming. I'll get straight to the point. We've received several complaints about inappropriate conduct involving your wife and one of our trainers, Julian Carter." I tried to look surprised. "What kind of inappropriate conduct?" "Well, there have been reports of public displays of affection, unprofessional behavior, and..." She paused, consulting her notes. "An incident involving some kind of skin condition that affected both employees and created a disruption in the workplace." "A skin condition?" "Yes. Apparently both your wife and Mr. Carter came to work several weeks ago with some kind of green discoloration and were scratching constantly. It made clients uncomfortable, and there were rumors about contagious diseases. I nodded seriously. That does sound concerning. There's more. This weekend's incident at the festival has created additional problems. We've had several clients cancel their memberships, and there's been negative attention on social media. She slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was a video of Julian falling into the dunk tank with the caption, "Elite fitness trainer takes a dive at local festival." Mr. McKinley, I have to ask, did you have anything to do with these incidents? I met her eyes steadily. Ma'am, I'm a construction worker. I build houses. I don't know anything about skin conditions or festival decorations. She studied my face for a long moment, then sighed. The reason I called you is that we're terminating both your wife and Mr. Carter, effective immediately. Given the nature of their relationship and the disruption it's caused, we feel we have no choice. I understand. Your wife has been asked to clean out her desk and surrender her company credit card and vehicle. She's not taking it well. As if on cue, shouting erupted from somewhere else in the building. Jennifer winced. That would be her now. The shouting got louder, and I could make out Marta's voice. This is discrimination? You can't fire me for my personal life. A man's voice responded. Ms. McKinley, please lower your voice. This decision is final. I'll sue all of you. Jennifer looked at me apologetically. Perhaps you could help calm her down? No, I don't think so. Marta made her choices. She can deal with the consequences. More shouting, followed by the sound of something crashing. Jennifer jumped up and headed for the door. Good luck, I said, standing up to leave. As I walked through the lobby, I could see into the main gym area. Julian was there, throwing his personal items into a cardboard box while clients and other trainers watched. He looked up as I passed by the window. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he mouthed something that looked like profanity and went back to packing. I was almost to my truck when Marta burst out of the building, carrying her own box of belongings. Her face was red and streaked with tears. Mac, she screamed across the parking lot. Are you happy now? Are you satisfied? I stopped and turned around. Are you talking to me? You did this. You destroyed my career, my relationship, everything. I didn't do anything, Marta. You did this to yourself. She set down the box and marched toward me, her hands clenched into fists. You sabotaged us. The green stuff, the festival, all of it. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop lying. I know it was you. Prove it. The two words stopped her cold. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. There has to be evidence. Of what? Me attending a public festival? Me having a conversation in a parking garage? Marta, you're the one who chose to have an affair. You're the one who got caught. You're the one who created a scene at work and got yourself fired. Julian loves me, she said, but her voice was weak. Where is Julian now? She looked around the parking lot. Julian's BMW was gone. He had to go handle some things? What things? Business things, personal things. He'll be back. But even as she said it, I could see the doubt in her eyes. Marta, let me ask you something. In all the time you've been seeing Julian, has he ever talked about a future together? Marriage? Moving in together? Anything permanent? Her silence was answer enough. He's gone, isn't he? As soon as things got complicated, as soon as there were real consequences, he disappeared. No, you're going to what? You're both unemployed now. You have no money. I control the bank accounts. You have no car. That was a company vehicle. What exactly are you going to do? She stared at me, and I watched the reality of her situation finally sink in. I have friends, she said weakly. Do you? Because from what I hear, most of your friends think this whole situation is pretty entertaining. Barb's been showing that video to everyone in the neighborhood. Serena's been posting about it on social media. The whole town knows what you did. Marta's legs seemed to give out. She sat down heavily on the curb, her box of belongings beside her. What do you want from me, Mac? Nothing. I don't want anything from you anymore. So what happens now? Now you figure out how to live with the choices you made. You wanted excitement? You wanted to feel special? Congratulations. The whole town knows who you are now. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Marta? The house locks have been changed. Don't bother coming back. As I drove away, I could see her in my rearview mirror, sitting on the curb outside her former workplace, surrounded by the pieces of her old life. My phone buzzed with a text from Darren. Heard about Elite Fitness. Buy you a beer to celebrate? I texted back. Make it two. 3 months later, I heard through the neighborhood gossip network that Marta had moved back in with her mother in another state. Julian had apparently left town entirely, possibly to avoid the growing number of angry clients who discovered he'd been overcharging them and skimming money from the gym's accounts. The house felt different without her, quieter, but not in a bad way. I'd started dating again. Nothing serious, just dinner with a nice woman I'd met at the hardware store. She thought the whole green revenge story was hilarious. I never did find out if Marta and Julian tried to use that contaminated lubricant again. But sometimes, late at night, I'd think about them discovering what I'd done and I'd smile. They'd wanted to make me look like a fool. Instead, they'd made themselves the laughingstock of the entire town. They'd wanted to have their affair in secret, and I'd made sure everyone knew about it. Justice isn't always served by the courts. Sometimes it's served by a man with green dye, itching powder, and the patience to watch his enemies destroy themselves. As I sat in my garage that final evening, working on a new project and listening to the radio, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just satisfied. Marta had wanted to know who I really was. Well, now she knew. I was the man who built things up, and when necessary, I was the man who tore them down. The green dye had washed away weeks ago, but the humiliation would last forever. Every time someone in town saw Marta's name or Julian's face, they'd remember the Green Dream Team and their spectacular fall from grace. They'd made their bed. Now they could lie in it, separately, unemployed, and utterly defeated.